I get shit done, I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking through.
Hello and welcome to our show today. I'm excited to have Doug, my guest, for the second time. Before he was an up and coming author. Now, today, he's officially an author. And we're going to talk about three things that you must know whenever you're starting a business. But before we do that, if you're watching this live, thank you very much for being here with us today. And if you're watching it on the replay, remember hashtag replay. Let us know where you're watching it from and what's the nugget you got out of it. And share it out with other people if you found value in today's show. We really appreciate that. And I'm going to do my shameless plug for my organization that I'm involved with. And I'm one of a couple of hundred around the globe. And if you've ever had a question for a business coach, we could probably help you out with that. But let me do my shameless plug first. Where did it go? It disappeared. Here it is. Welcome back. Yeah, shameless plug. I'm so passionate about what we do. A couple of weeks ago, I was in New Orleans hanging out with almost a couple of hundred, just shy of a couple of hundred other business coaches from around the globe. And the mind power and the wisdom that they have and they shared was just a priceless. It was a MasterCard moment. So if you have a question, perhaps around time, team, money, or exit strategy, reach out. Let me know. If I'm not the guy who can answer the question that you have, I could tap into that group and make an introduction. And maybe one little shift in your kaleidoscope would make a difference in your business and in your life so that you get more stuff done with less stress and way more fun. So, yeah, Doug Wing, the wingman, his dad, was the inspiration for everything he is and who he is. But I met him because of this crazy thing that happened in the world a couple of years ago. And what happens when the life throws you curveballs or throws you lemons, we can do one or two things. We could hunker down and hide, or we could take it on and do something and make lemonade, a new kind of lemonade, or we can do something else. So Doug decided to do something else. He wrote a book. So we're going to talk a little bit about the book, but I'm really interested in sharing his stories. And one of the chapters in the book is the ladders I've climbed. So I'm going to pick his brain at some time in this conversation today about that. So I'm going to bring the wingman, Hal Wing's son, Doug Wing, onto the screen. Here he is. Welcome, Doug, and thank you for coming back. And that's a testimony that the Business Renovator is a pretty okay place to hang out. So you've come back.
Yeah. Hey, Coach Phil, thank you so much. It's either I can look at it one or two ways. Either I did a good job the first time, or I didn't do such a good job, and you said, "Okay, let's give him one more shot." But
You did a great job. You did
grateful
a great
to be
job.
here, and it's always a pleasure to see you and to be on the show.
And why I like that you're here is because you're an interesting dude. And in 30 minutes, we'll cover some of it. We won't get all of your brilliance and where that brilliance came from. But it ties into what we're all about, sales, marketing, and mental fitness. And I read a bunch of things in your dad's book that focus on all three of those, particularly mental fitness. There was a story where you were speeding. Well, actually, he was. And he did something that was not really very good. But the lesson in that, he took you down to the police station and corrected it. That was a brilliant story.
Yeah, my dad grew up and he loved speed, whether it was driving cars or riding motorcycles or riding a horse or whatever it was. He was always in a hurry, and he was always one ticket away from losing his license. And we were out riding motorcycles this day and in the dirt, and on the way back, we're out in the middle of rural Utah, and and he's speeding right along and got pulled over, and it took the police officer, a sheriff, a while to catch us. And he pulls over and he's like, trade places with me. We were driving in a Ford Bronco that had a bench seat. And I'm like, what? And I just barely got in my driver's license. I said, oh man, I never got a ticket in my life. And he's like, I'm going to lose my license. So anyway, the police officer came and asked me if I knew how fast I was going. I said, no. And so I got the ticket, and my dad saved his license. And then the next day, my dad in the morning came down to my room and he's like, hey, I really messed up. What I did was not honest. And let's go down to that was in the days when this was out in the middle of kind of the country rurally. And he said, the ticket had the name of the justice of the peace and everything on it if you wanted to dispute it or whatever. So he goes, let's go to this guy's house and let's talk to him about it. And I was like, we're both going to jail. And he's like, just relax, And so I learned the one thing about my dad. He was really good with people. He had really great people skills. And we went over to this justice of the peace's house, and my dad tells him the story, and I'm looking at this guy's eyes and I'm thinking he's going to pick up the red phone and call the police and we're going to jail. But he kind of leans back and he looks at us and he's like, he goes, I think everybody here has learned a real valuable lesson. Let's just forget this whole thing. And I was like, whoa. And so, we went back in the car and everything. And I was thinking to myself, it really does pay. It really, really, really does pay to be honest and in all that you do. And my dad was always honest, but it was a really great lesson. And, he didn't lose his license and I didn't get the ticket. So, yeah.
And that demonstrated a whole bunch of things. But the numero uno that came to me was that your dad was human.
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
Right?
for sure. Yeah. And, yes, exactly. And that's a good point. A lot of times in the book, I talk about his greatness and the things that I learned from him. And he had a lot of great things about him, but you're correct. He was just like you and I. He had weaknesses. He made mistakes, and and in the book, it talks about one of his quotes is patience is a waste of time. That really was Hal Wing, but in some ways he really needed more patience in some situations, but in other ways, I think that the patience is a waste of time thing really helped him in business because he just went for it, right? But in some things he probably could have used a little bit more patience. But
the yin and the yang, right? You push the
yeah,
envelope, and that's
yeah,
kind of what I got out of reading your book. Is that's what he did. He did it lawfully, and when he made mistakes, he owned up to them, which is kind of what I see in you from the time I've gotten to know you over it's been a little over a couple of years now.
yeah.
I think also I like with that one of the 28 quotes that are in the book is that, and it coincides with, I think Brian Tracy said it. If it wasn't him, it was somebody else. And it's like success like speed, right? So your dad just said it a different way, but I think it's part of the process. It takes energy, and if you jump on your opportunities or your dreams or your aspirations, it makes
Mhm.
it easier to get there, right?
Yeah, and one of the things there is a story in the book that I had something to do with that Little Giant. And one of the things that Little Giant was really good is that we could adapt very quickly, and we had speed when it came to designing and developing new products. We put a lot of energy and money into it, resources, and that really paid off towards the end of my career when we were approached by all the cable companies throughout North America, and they said we need a ladder that's not 100 pounds, and we need it to be 50 pounds, exactly 50% of the weight, because we're having all these injuries. And every ladder company in the world blew these guys off. We did it in 8 months, and we, basically took over the entire cable telecom market by, number one, listening to what the customer needed, and then quickly being able to develop this product that had never been developed before. And we're still selling tons of ladders. I mean, I would say we've probably sold over 200, maybe $250 million worth of ladders to this market, which we had none of the market. And by listening and by having the speed to rapidly build these products, we opened up a whole new vertical, and which was super profitable. for the company. But what was amazing, Phil, was the ladder was half the weight, but it was double the price of what they were paying, and they were saving so many millions of dollars in claims that they never balked at the price one bit. It was just like, yep, this is what we want and need, and it solved a huge problem. And so listening is huge, and then being able to respond rapidly to what the customer wants it was just a huge windfall for the company.
Oh, I love this story. A reason being is where I focus a lot of my energy as a coach, business coach, is in developing people personally as well as sellers. And I think that sales is one of the best, if not the best careers out there. And many people have this perception of it's sleazy. And yeah, it can be if people do things for the wrong reason. But if they follow what you've done, you guys listened. So it's kind of a hokey phrase, but I'm going to say it. If you see Jim Jones through Jim Jones' eyes, you'll sell Jim Jones what Jim Jones buys. In that story, what you just shared is exactly what you guys did. You heard what they were saying and you said, let's do it. And you came up with a solution. And the other thing that I liked about that story is the value box was huge versus the cost. Like you weren't selling on the price, you were selling on the value, saving lives, safety, and other things around that. That's priceless. It's like a MasterCard moment. And
exactly.
I have your ladders. I wished I had waited until you got the lighter version, because they are heavy, but they've never fallen over. I can put it on the stairs. I can lean it over top of the eavesdrop. I can turn it into a scaffolding, and I can make it a long ladder. I can make it an A-frame ladder. There's a plug for the Little Giant ladder. It's an amazing ladder. It's been around. I've had it for 20 years. And I'm not even in the contracting business. I just bought it because it served a purpose.
Yeah, one of the things we always tried to do was build quality products. And sometimes people would come up to me at shows and stuff, trade shows and stuff, and they'd go, your ladders are really expensive. And I would look right at them in all seriousness, and I'd say, how much is your life worth? And I've had a few guys who go, well, I never thought about it that way. And I said, if you buy this ladder and you fall off of it and you spend one night in the hospital, and I go, how much is that going to cost you? And they go, I've never really thought about it like that. And I said, it's worth a lot more than that, right? So yeah, you got to think about these things in that way sometimes.
Yeah, education. That's what proper professional sellers do. They educate. They don't pitch. I hate that word. It's like nails on a blackboard for me. If somebody says to me, yeah, I want to give you my pitch, I don't want to hear that to me, pitch is like something they play English football on, a football pitch, or, it's a curveball, it's a knuckleball. And that's a better reason why not to do it, because what are we throwing people curveballs? We don't pitch, we present ideas.
Exactly.
Anyway, that's my rant.
No, it's good. Good point. So that's kind of the way we sold at Little Giant. My dad would come to a lot of sales meetings, and he would just pop in sometimes. He'd throw out these little nuggets. But one of my favorite sayings that my dad would always say, and he believed this, he lived it, and he would say, I don't care what you tell the customer, you can tell them anything you want to, as long as it's the truth.
Yeah.
And so, if you're always telling people the truth, and we never badmouthed our competitors, and our competitors always did that to us. Oh, they're double the price of us. They're too expensive. They're too heavy. They're overpriced, blah, 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 blah. And we just always would point out the differences honestly, ethically, and that always came back to benefit us.
Just this week, I'm teaching a group of sellers. They're inside salespeople for a client of mine. And one of the things that we're talking about is the preemptive strike, because there are products out there that are more costly. The price is higher than anyone else. The ladder's one, Rolex watches, or you can buy a Timex watch, right, or another brand watch for $25 or $25,000. Buy that watch, or you can buy a ladder that's not of the same quality, or you can buy the right one, which is the Little Giant ladder, right? And what I get them to do, the preemptive strike, is you actually brag about it. One of the things you're going to probably know about our ladder, for example, is it's the highest priced ladder out there, and we sell more ladders than anybody else. And I just wanted to let you know that, and then that can get you going into the point where you get to tell them why it's right.
Yeah, my dad would sometimes come to sales meetings and say, our competitors know what their prices are worth, what their products are worth, and so do we. I really like that.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm hearing in that is what his conviction, but also your conviction, because you had a leadership role too in the chapter the ladders I've climbed, you were the VP at one point in time and looking after a leadership role for the company.
Yeah, yeah. Towards the like I said, towards the end of my last several years of the company, I was one of the majority shareholders of the company, along with my brother and vice chairman of the company. And so, we tried to continue that legacy that my father started. The culture at Little Giant is very unique. Man, employees are treated like family, and we realize, and we're taught by Hal Wing, that our greatest asset at the company was not our products, our patents, our buildings, the things, the money that we had in the bank or anything like that, our profits, but our greatest asset was our people. And if we took care of our people and build our people, then they would build great products for us, and they would be loyal to us, and it would be a win-win situation for everyone involved.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Absolutely. So I'm on a mission to work with the people that I work with to help them instill that and maintain that kind of
Mhm.
philosophy from a variety of different companies, yours being one. But the highly successful companies do look after their people, and their people end up looking after their business. It's crazy, but it's the way.
Yeah.
If you coerce people, they don't do things for the right reason.
Yes, and I believe today, I don't know what it's like in Canada, it's probably very similar to America. You go into any restaurant, any business, and there's help wanted signs up. I believe that philosophy and that principle today more than ever is needed, because if you want to have a successful business, you've got to have good people, and people will leave you for, for 50 cents more an hour, $1 more an hour. So you've got to take care of people, treat them the way that you would want to be treated, and make sure you take good care of them, treat them well, and build those long-term relationships. Because right now it's hard to find good people and a good service. It's very difficult.
Yeah, totally. There was something in the first page of your chapter that stuck out for me. You went to your dad and asked for more money. And I've heard this kind of story from other people, but I like your story as well. Do you want
And
to tell us a little bit more about that?
yeah, that was one of the mistakes I made early on. And my dad was so direct, but I always knew he loved me. And but man, I walked into my dad's office, and I've had a few of those moments with my dad, just a couple of them. But I said, "Hey, I need more money," and that was a big mistake. And to have your dad, not only your boss, the guy you worked for 47 years, the company you worked for, but to have your father and your boss tell you, "Well, you're not worth any more money to me right now, so there's no way I can pay you. So you have two options. One, you can, go get more education or learn something here at the company to make yourself more valuable, or I've got something I can have you do right now. Our cleaning company just quit and gave us their 3-week notice. And so if you want to make more money, and because I wanted to get a house, I had been recently married and I was living in an apartment, and I needed, a certain amount of more money. And so my dad goes, here's what this pays. You can come in every day for however long it takes, a couple hours, clean the offices. And here's how, what you have to do. And so I either had to come in at, 5 a.m. or stay after and do it after work. And my wife and I did that for like 3 years. We were able to get our house, and I learned a valuable lesson. And then the next time I went in to talk to my dad, I changed how I addressed him and what I asked him. I walked in and I said, "What can I do to be of more value to the company, and to earn a greater income, and to do more in the business?" And he goes, "Well," he said, "all of the top producers in the company are in the sales. And so if you want to go on the road and be away from your family half of the time, half of the month you're going to be gone, that's where the big money is." And so I went out and started selling product, and was able to, earn a nice income. And then later on went into, where I was training salespeople, and then moved into management. But I'm really grateful for my father, who he was so smart, so wise. He gradually gave my brother and I more opportunities. And I won't say they were opportunities, and it was ours to take those opportunities. And then we learned more responsibilities, and we grew. And that was very wise of him, because he knew eventually we'd be taking over the company, and that if he just handed everything to us, that would not have served us very well.
Yeah, that's wise. More and more people could learn that today from that. And I'm glad we have a book that we can help get out there and get people to read those lessons to see if we can change somebody's thinking around what they're doing,
Mm.
whether they're in business or if they're running a family. I think the
Yeah.
wisdom that your dad and the book that you've put together for all of us to jump in and buy and have, it's not just about business; it's about life. But it does work for business because people are in business, aren't they?
Yeah, and we're all in the people business, but you're right because if you and in this book we teach you after each chapter how to apply the teachings, the
Right.
things we just talked about in your lives. And but you're exactly right. If you take the philosophy of, hey, I'm going to build somebody, and then they're going to help me with what I need. If you let's just say you're talking about your spouse, yeah, you need a better relationship with your spouse. Well, if you'll love your spouse and help him or her, he or she is gonna come back and they're gonna help you as well. So build people, help people, love people, mentor people, and then they'll help you get what you want as well.
Yeah, totally. And what I'm on a mission to do is something similar to what you're doing, and I'm having an impact of that's really I get paid. Money's not a bad thing, but
Hmm.
I get paid with the heartfelt side. That's really what cranks me up. And when I get unsolicited emails about somebody's life is better because of the company that I'm working with is invested in them through getting what I do, and hearing that their life is a little bit better because the culture of the company supports people,
Yeah.
not just the business. It supports the people. They realize that just like your dad taught you, is if you look after the people will look after your business. And those are the companies that I like to work with, that, or they're at least open to seeing that as a possibility.
Yeah,
Very much so.
a lot of business owners, just concentrate on the bottom line, which is important. If you don't watch the money, of course you're going to be out of business. But
Right.
really investing in the people, building them, and looking at them as your biggest, greatest asset, and that you want them to stay. There are so many people in the manufacturing sector of Little Giant that are still there, that have been there over 35 years, 30 years, 25 years, 20 years. And those jobs are physically very, very demanding. And I believe there's a lot of other places that pay more than Little Giant. But I believe it's the way we treat people, how we do pay well, but it's the little things that we do. I mean, I'll give you an example. When probably about a year ago, I was walking through the office there at Little Giant, and I saw one of the administrative assistants, and she says, "Hey, I'm leaving. I got a really nice offer, and they're paying me twice the money, and I really hate to leave here, but this is too good to be true." And she was gone. And then about 3 months later, I was walking back through the office and I see her. She's in a different location, but she's back. And I said, "Jen, what are you doing back?" And she goes, "Well," she says, "I went to this company and they made me all these promises." And she goes, "I just hated the place. They didn't treat me like they said they were going to treat me. They didn't do the things that they said they were going to do. And I missed the culture at Little Giant. I missed everybody." And she begged to come back, and her job was gone, but there was another job. And so she was so happy to be back and just said, "There's something special about this place." And she was back within a couple months. So it was really a good testimony for the way that, employees are treated at the company, and the culture there is very family oriented. And she was back. She just missed it so much, and she came back to less money. But she just said, "I love it here."
One of my philosophies that I've tapped into, and I think it's powerful, and it doesn't. Well, if you adapt this or adopt this into your philosophy, and I think you do already, and maybe not in exact same words, but if no one cares about you until they know how much you care about them. And when you bring
Mhm.
that into the organization, if you're really living that, not just lip service, but really living it, I think what you end up getting is people coming back thinking that the grass was greener on the other side. When they realize, get to that other side, uh, it's the same kind of grass, but not the same kind of atmosphere. So that's a
Yeah.
testimonial to you.
Yeah,
Um,
one of the lessons I learned from my dad was that he taught me is he knew every person, over 400 people. First of all, he knew their names, and then he knew something about them, and that was impressive. And when people
yeah,
know, you greet people with their name, and you're like, "Hey, how are your kids?" Or "How you doing? How are you doing with this or whatever? How's your health?" And so little things like that he taught me, to know the names of your employees and something about them. Anyway, sorry about that, but that was just one thing that I think
No,
those
that's
that are
good.
in business is, know people's names, know who they are, and that's a big deal.
I agree that there's a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. And one of the things they teach us right off the bat is remember somebody's name. It's a most important sound to all of us.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
your dad was living that, whether he was trained by Dale or not, doesn't matter. He was living it. Hey, the title of this episode wasn't supposed to be, but is, and I got off track. And it's the three things that you must know. And we're running out of time, but could you tell our audience what are three things you must know when you start a business? Or have we already talked about them?
We talked about several of them. Yeah. Uh, the one thing that was really funny, it's not really funny, but in the last quote in that book, my dad said, you got to remember these three things about business. It's going to take you twice as long as what you think it's going to take you. And it's going to cost you twice as much as you think it's going to cost you. And you're going to make half the profit you think you are. But I think really, and people chuckle about that, but when you're in business for yourself, sometimes you read that and you go, and after you've been in it, you go, yeah, that's really true. But I really think that, the things that I learned and from my father was little things like, don't lie, don't steal, don't be lazy. But really, the key to the success and the reason why the book Giant Success is so amazing is because the stories in there are all about developing people, really helping people, loving people, serving people, mentoring people. And that's really the key. I think if more people today took the time to help people, love people, serve people, build people, and we're in a society now where everybody's got their faces in phones and people don't communicate face to face like they did and talk to each other anymore. But I really think that, the lessons you can take from this book are develop people and they will help you to achieve whatever your goal is. My dad said, if you concentrate on building the business and not the man, you will not achieve. But if you build the man, you achieve both. And Zig Ziglar said it a different way. He said, you can have anything you want in life
Mhm.
if you help enough other people get what they want. So I think, think about that. If in your marriage, what if you said, I'm going to, um, you can get anything you want to in life if you help your spouse get what he or she wants. You can put that into business and friendships and anything. And so help people get what they want, and then you'll get what you want and need. And that really is the message of, and then also give anonymously. I mean, there's so many stories in there about giving. Hal Wing achieved all these great things, but he gave back. I mean, the guy gave of his time, his resources, and both a lot of times, and he was there when people needed him. So that's kind of really the message I think of this book is go do these things, and not only will your life be blessed, but you're going to bless all these other people along the way, and everybody's going to be lifted and blessed.
So one of the core principles we have within the Focal Point brand is the pebble in the pond, being the pebble in the pond. And I think your dad definitely was that. And now you are the new pebble in the
Hmm.
pond. And with this book and your passion for what your dad taught you, the life he helped you create, and the man he turned you into by the efforts that you put into it, because your dad gave you opportunity to fail or succeed. And you chose to succeed in all of the things you did. Not to say you didn't fail, because in the failing, that's where we learn, right? Failing
Yeah.
is not a bad thing. It's quitting is a bad thing usually.
Yeah.
Depends
No,
on what you're doing. Right?
that's a really good point because in the back of the book there's a poem in there that Hal Wing wrote about opportunity, and that's true. There are a lot of success stories in the book. There are not that many stories about there. Hal gave a lot of people opportunities, and some people didn't take them, and they ended up not staying with the company. But he there was a lot of people that that had come out of prison and things like that he gave opportunities to, and they took those opportunities and made something of themselves. And Ryan Moss, the CEO, is a great example. This Ryan never went to one day of college, worked his way all the way up from producing ladders to become the CEO of the company. And he's got a great quote in the book where he said, Hal Wing planted the trees and now we all get to enjoy the shade.
Ah.
And that is really a great quote, is, yeah, Hal planted the trees and then we all get to benefit, but we have to take this company and the legacy of him and continue on, and use the things that we learned to bless other people. And that's what I try to do every day. Hal Wing was only 5'7" and wore a size 7 shoe, but I'm telling you, those shoes are pretty big shoes to fill.
That's a pretty good way to wrap this up. Before we wrap up, though, I let people know that they can get a copy of the book from here, right, where we're showing on the website,
Yeah.
giantsuccess.com. They can connect with you there as well.
Yes, yeah. So there's a couple of ways they can get the book. They can go on Amazon and get it. But if someone wants an, excuse me, a signed copy, they can go to giantsuccess.com. Also on that website, I'm doing a lot of speaking now, where I teach these principles, to a company, to schools, to whoever. I was telling you earlier, I'm actually going to Utah in 10 days. And I'm teaching this program to a police department. Now think about that. The police lately some of them have gotten kind of bad raps and there's been bad press about them. But just think about, building people and even the police, everybody can use this, and how to treat people, how to help people. And so, if people want to get in touch with me about speaking or anything like that, they can go to giantsuccess.com and get a hold of me that way.
Cool. And then I want to put this up because if they didn't get this, they could go search you on LinkedIn and find you there.
Yeah, we're on all social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can get a hold of me pretty much anyway.
Awesome.
Pretty much.
They can also reach out to me, and if they can't find this, I'll send them your coordinates.
Yeah, for sure. Love to help people any way that I can. So.
Well, it was a treat to have you on the Business Renovator one more time. Now as a author, officially, the book is out, it's available. And now I know where I can get a copy from hard copy. I will make sure I take
the hard copies turned out really, really nice. I'll tell you, when you write a book and you get those first shipment, you put it in your hands and you see your name on it, and then you see your ugly face on there, you're like, and you kind of go through the pages. This is a guy I'm meeting tomorrow for lunch, and I signed up for him. But what's really neat about the books is, when my father passed away, Phil, I had this stamp, and it was his signature stamp. I thought, I want that, and my siblings are like, we're throwing that away. And I always thought, what am I going to do with that? And then I ended up writing the book. And I'll show you at the end of the book is the opportunity poem, and check out the stamp right there.
Hang on, I'm going to make this even bigger.
So every book I sign also has my father's signature in the back.
Very cool.
And look at how unique his signature was. He was really a unique guy. But I'm so grateful that I kept that. That I said, why do I want that? And I kept it. My dad's been gone 10 years. And now when the book came out, I said, I know exactly why I kept that stamp.
There you go.
Everything
good for you. That's very good. Very good. Well, it was really interesting to talk to you. So we could talk more about the book. There's a lot of great stuff in there. But I attempt to keep these about 30 minutes. So I'm going to live to that.
Yeah.
And hang out for a minute.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. It's great to see you again. And thank you, everyone, for watching.
See you later.
Okay.
Well, I knew it was going to be interesting. I knew it was going to be jam-packed with information. And now if you want to get the book, you know where to get it. But before we go, I want to remind you to be this right there. Be wonderful. The you and wonderful is there representing you. You are unique and you are truly wonderful. And I encourage you to go act and be like your wonderful self. Until next time, I'm Coach Phil. This has been the Business Renovator one more time. And I'm looking forward to the next show where we get to share some information from some other interesting, powerful leaders from around the world.
I get shit done. I have fun. It's my time and I'm the one. I'm breaking